Hello and welcome back to Organized-ish. My name is Leela and I'm a former professional organizer, and now I spend all of my time helping you get your home and your life more organized. One of the questions that I get most often is, how do you find time in a busy schedule for your hobbies like crafting and home renovations and all the things that I somehow seem to fit into my day? So today I want to tell you 8 tips for finding hobby time even if your schedule is jam-packed. Now, this wouldn't be an organized-ish video if I weren't talking about organizing, so my first tip is to organize all of your hobby supplies. I know it sounds like it's too easy, but I promise you, when all of your items are organized and easy to access, you're way more likely to use them. You're not spending 15 minutes trying to dig everything out from a container that's at the bottom of the closet, or jumping all around your spare bedroom trying to find all of your supplies that are scattered everywhere and in big piles. When you have all of your supplies organized and easy to find and easy to access, you are able to go grab what you need and work on it in a short amount of time, and you're not wasting that time trying to find everything. Now, if your supplies aren't organized already, just take an afternoon and go through and declutter anything you don't need anymore and sort out everything that you do want to keep by category. You don't have to go crazy with a whole bunch of specialty containers right now. That's always something you can do later on, but your goal just starting out is to have everything separated. That way you can find it all and you can see what you have. Now, tip number 2 is along the same lines of organizing, and that is to get some mobile storage. A lot of times, if you have a craft room like I have, sometimes you want to work in that craft room, and other times you just don't have the time to go into another room. It's easier just to multitask somewhere else. So by using caddies and rolling carts and even a toolbox, you can keep your most used supplies in these mobile containers, and then you can take them to other rooms. So on Sundays, if you're watching football, or on a Friday night while you're watching a movie, you can bring these containers into the room and just work on your craft while you're watching TV. This isn't going to work for the really creative parts of your project, but it does allow you to get the mindless tasks out of the way, so like cutting things up and gluing and cutting out labels and just all the little things that don't really require you to be creative and think a lot. You can at least get that stuff out of the way. It's also a great way if you make jewelry to be able to just string up all of your jewelry beads, or if you knit, you can do it right wherever you are. You don't have to keep all of your supplies in these mobile containers. I just recommend keeping the things you use most often, and then maybe one extra basket for you to put your specialty supplies in that you're using just for that project. Tip number 3 is to use an in-progress box. A lot of times when we are crafting, we don't actually finish the craft in the amount of time that we have. Especially if you have a short amount of time to work, you're never going to get it done, right? So that results in a table full of mess and confusion when you come back to work on it again. Or if you're like me, you have pets that knock it all in the floor, and then everything you did just gets broken and you have to start all over again. So my recommendation is to just get an in-progress box and put all of your project in the box once you're done working for the day. This is going to be your project that you've been working on and all of the tools and supplies too. So if you were using scissors or you were using glue, don't put those back in the craft room where you store them. Instead, put them in the in-progress box. That way when you're ready to work on it again, all you have to do is open up this box and literally everything you need to get started is right there. This is especially helpful if you don't have a craft room and you end up working on the dining room table or the coffee table. That way you're not leaving a huge mess out for who knows when you have time to come back to it. Having everything in this in-progress box allows you to have a clean space without having to put up everything and then waste all the time getting everything back out again. Tip number 4 is to set a specific time to work on your projects and try to keep that time. So that should be in your schedule as a recurring weekly time. My family knows that every Sunday, that is the day that I'm working on my dollhouse renovations. Whether I have just an hour to work on it or I have an entire afternoon, they know that sometime on Sundays, I'm going to be working downstairs on the dollhouse crafts, and they come to expect it. Like on Sunday mornings, they say, "When are you going downstairs?" And having that recurring amount of time trains your family to know that that's a priority to you, but it also trains yourself to prioritize it. Sometimes we have all these goals of crafts and hobbies and journaling and home decorating and all these DIYs that we see on Pinterest, and we want to do all the things, but we say we don't have time. Actually, you do have time, you're just not prioritizing it correctly. All that time that you're spending on the couch scrolling through TikTok or watching reruns, technically you could be working on something that you really love. Now, you may not have time once a week to work on your hobbies, but just having that recurring reminder, even if it's just once a month, that first Sunday of every month is the day that you want to make something new. Or every other Wednesday, you go in the kitchen and you create a new recipe. Whatever it is, just training yourself to stick with that schedule and really make time for it is going to help you get in the habit, and it'll help you realize that you actually are able to do the things that you want to do. Tip number 5 is to have an easy meal planned for the day that you are working on your hobbies. Sometimes we go to work and then we come home and we plan on making a new Cricut project, and then by the time you have designed the project and then cut everything out and applied the vinyl and then cleaned up your mess, you realize it's 7:30 and you still haven't even figured out what to make for dinner yet. So having something that's already pre-planned, pre-put together, and already in the works, you don't have to worry about what you're going to be doing for dinner that night. Whether it's just some pre-chopped vegetables on a sheet pan cooked in the oven, or if it's an easy crock pot meal that you just dump everything in and it just cooks while you're crafting, having that dinner plan already figured out just makes it so much easier. And you know about what time that's going to be done, especially with a crock pot. And so you have that amount of time as like your deadline. So you know 30 minutes before the deadline, you're going to have to clean everything up, get upstairs, do the final touches. So you have that set deadline, but you're also able to focus on your craft and not be thinking about what you're going to be doing after you get done. Tip number 6 is to split up your tasks. If you don't have a lot of time to work on an entire project at once, it's best to break down on a piece of paper exactly step by step all the things you need to do. Then you can just work on a couple of those when you have time and then pick it back up and then work on the next few tasks later on. This really helps you plan out your project and stay focused, but it's a great way to manage your time. So when I was working on my Halloween mantle project, I spent one afternoon going to Goodwill and picking out the frames. Then I picked out the prints that I wanted from Etsy. So then the next day I was able to clean the frames while my dinner was cooking in the oven. The next day I picked up the prints and put them inside the frames. And then the next day after that was when I put them on the fireplace because I actually had time to style it and decorate. This is something that would have taken me a really long time, but just by breaking it up task by task, I was able to fit in like 15-20 minutes of each bit of the project throughout the course of a week. And then I still was able to get it done. It took a little longer, but we have so many things going on between practices and work and everything else that we have to do in our daily lives, along with our regular routines that we don't want to mess up. So just taking a few minutes and splitting up all of your projects into smaller tasks still gives you that high of doing your projects and feeling creative, but you're not feeling any pressure that you're taking away something else from your day. Now, you knew I was gonna say it and you don't want to hear this, but tip number 7 is to only work on one project at a time. I know this is hard for me to even say because I'm one of those people that while I'm in the middle of one project, I'm already thinking about 3 more that I want to do. But when you have multiple projects going on at the same time, you're not actually finishing anything. You're just creating more stress and more overwhelm to get everything done. Meanwhile, you're not making progress anywhere. Since you're already stretched on time, it's really good to only be working on one project at a time when it comes to your hobbies. One thing you can do if you're super creative and have all these ideas is just keep a list of projects that you want to do, write out what they are and how long you think they'll take, and give a little extra time. If you think it's going to take an hour, you better put 3 because you know it's never going to take the amount of time that you expect. Once you have an entire list of all of the things that are swimming around in your head and how long you think they'll take, then when it's time for you to start a new project, you can kind of look at your calendar, see what your week looks like and how much time you're actually going to have to work on these things, and you can choose something that has a smaller amount of time or a larger amount of time for the allotment based on what you have. Having this list also gives you the ability to bulk buy your supplies. That way, if you see on your list that 3 different projects are going to involve black paint, you can buy a bigger container of black paint to save money and then work on those 3 projects first. That way, everything is kind of lumped together. It also works that way for specialty projects where you're having to use a certain tool or work in a certain place. If there's 3 projects you have in mind that involve spray painting and you have a spray paint tent, setting up that tent and then doing all 3 of the spray painting projects one after the other is going to allow you to be able to do all those things with less setup time because the tent is already there. And tip number 8 is to lower your expectations. Like I said in number 7, we have all these ideas swimming around and all these things that we want to do, but we also have all these other things that we have to do in our daily lives. So when you come up with a great idea for a project or you find the most awesome DIY on Pinterest that you want to copy and you go buy all the things, having a goal of finishing that in a short amount of time is never a good idea. I have been working on remodeling my stairs, and originally I had planned on trying to knock this out in just 1 week. Now, technically, I could do this in 1 week if I didn't do anything else all week long because I keep running into things. And that's what happens when you're doing projects. You run into snags, you get slowed down, someone calls and talks on the phone with you for 30 minutes, and that's half of your craft time. It's really ineffective to think that you are going to be able to do everything all at once. And then when you aren't able to do everything at once, then you're kind of beating yourself up like, oh no, I didn't finish this. Now I feel unproductive, or like I just wasted half of my day and I still have to do it later. Lower your expectations to think that you are not trying to hurry up and complete a project. Instead, you're just taking that 30 minutes or hour or 2 hours or whatever time you have to work on your projects, and you're just spending that time being creative and escaping real life for a little while. Lowering your expectations on time frames and the actual quality of your work is really helpful for your mental health, because the whole reason why you're crafting in the first place is because it's fun. Don't put so much pressure on yourself so you can actually enjoy it. I hope this helped you feel a little more confident next time you're ready to start a project, and I would love to know which one of these tips resonated with you the most. Also, down in the comments, let me know what kind of projects you're working on, whether it's a craft project or a home project. I always love hearing about different ideas that people are creating, and I would love to hear what your favorite hobbies are. And if you need craft room organization inspo, I will link my craft room tour down below in the description. It basically takes you around my entire craft room and I show you how I organize everything. So hopefully that will give you some ideas on where to start. Also, the Organized-ish Craft Room, which is my full start-to-finish workshop on how to set up, organize, and maintain a craft room. That is coming out next month too, so I'll put the link down for the wait list on that if that's something you need. And in the meantime, I hope you have the very best time crafting. Make sure you make some specific time for it soon, and I will see you in the next one.